What's up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Barbecue, and what I'm going to be doing today is going to be a 50-day wet aged brisket, and I'm going to do it on my pit barrel cooker. I just bought this pit barrel cooker, done a few cooks on it, and I'm pretty impressed with it. Now I want to see how it does with this brisket. Now this brisket isn't anything special. It's not a prime, it's not choice, it's not wagyu, it's not none of that stuff. It's just your regular old cheap brisket. So what does wet aging do to a brisket? Well, when you buy a brisket from the store, and I've bought choice briskets, prime brisket every now and then, and even the prime ones, when you pick them up a lot of times, they're still kind of stiff. Setting it in the refrigerator for 50 days and just letting those enzymes break the meat down will kind of let your brisket do something along these lines right here. So when you pick it up, pretty much just folds right over. So this is going to be the second brisket that I've wet aged. The other one that I did it on my Traeger. I'm going to leave a link to that video in the description, and that turned out excellent. So hopefully this will come out good too. As far as my cooking temperature on this, we're going to be going hot and fast. I'm going to be cooking anywhere between 290 to maybe 310, maybe 315 on it. The rub that I'm going to be using is a rub that was given to me by two guys. I just went out to Iowa, met two other cooking channels. I'm going to put a link to both of their channels in the description. But I went out to Iowa, linked up with Leland at Howland Smoke Barbecue and Thyron at T&T Barbecue, and they both gave me rubs. So Thyron gave me a beef rub, and then Leland gave me a coffee rub. So what I did, combined both of them together. I thought that Thyron's beef rub was excellent. I used that on some ribs, but I liked the color of that coffee rub that Leland gave me, and it was kind of almost more of a reddish color, which is kind of what I was looking for. So that's going to be our rub. This rub's going to have a chance to sit on this meat for about 16 hours before I cook it, so we're not going with any binder or anything like that. Part of the reason is there's no need for a binder if it's going to be sitting that long. Second of all, if you rub it down with mustard or something like that and then put it back in this pan, when you pull the brisket out, a lot of the rub is going to come off with the binder. And I suspect some of the rub's going to come off anyway, so what we're going to do is sprinkle down that side again before we get it out on the smoker tomorrow. Anyway, as far as trimming, what I did, this was actually a pretty nice brisket. Didn't really take too much trimming. I did cut out the deckle, that hard piece of fat, between the flat and the point. And actually, this brisket, I would say, is probably 90% flat, 10% point. Not a lot of point on this, and I'm fine with that. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to season it up. We're not going to go too heavy on this, so I just wanted to bring you guys in so you can see exactly how heavy I do with this seasoning. Then we're going to set it in the refrigerator, let it sit another 16 hours till tomorrow morning, and then we're going to get this thing knocked out. So here's what our brisket looks like. It's not a competition like trim job on it. You know what? I just cut it down to about I'd say average about 1/8 of an inch of fat. And as far as the rub goes, and this isn't going to be that just salt and pepper. I get a little bored with that myself. But we're just going to put it on kind of like this, not real super heavy. There's our seasoning. This is going to go to bed 15, 16 hours. We're going to pick this up tomorrow about 8 o'clock when I get this on the smoker. See you then. Here we are. It's 6 o'clock the next day. I did put my hooks in this brisket, and I put 2 hooks in there just to kind of make sure it was secure. I saw this tip on the Pit Barrel Cooker YouTube channel. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to that channel in the description and in the iCard above. But it looks like my seasoning held pretty well on this, so no need to go back over that. Now, a lot of times if you're putting a binder on there, it gets a little tacky. And when you pull this out, sometimes the seasoning would stick on to the pan. What I've done was I put a toothpick at the end of this brisket just so I could see which way the grains run. I'm not going to cook it with the toothpick in. I just wanted to remember that this morning before I put it on. So on this brisket, what I'm going to be doing is cutting. There's a there's a pretty big point right here, so we're going to be cutting this way on it. So I just wanted to remember that today. Now all I'm going to do is go outside, light up some coals. We're going to be cooking with pecan wood and just charcoal briquettes. And what I'm going to try to do on this smoker is there is a vent on it where you can control the airflow. The first couple hours, I'm going to probably keep that vent about a quarter of the way open, and then after 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to open it up, probably maybe a little bit more than 3/4 of the way, and get this thing humming, so I can be cooking, you know, a little over 300 degrees. Anyway, I'll see you out at the smoker. Out here in these jammy pants, boom. Anyway, it looks like these coals are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of sprinkle them on top. Now I have 3 pretty big chunks of pecan wood in here, and the reason I have 3 chunks is just because pecan is a little bit more mild. If I was using something like hickory or mesquite, that's maybe even a little bit more charcoal than I want, but this is going to be a long cook. But if I was going with mesquite or hickory or something like that, I would probably cut that down a bit. Alright, so now we're just going to go ahead and lift this in. Get our hooks in, or our rebarb in. I'm going to let this go for about 2 or 3 minutes, then we're going to go ahead and throw that brisket on. Let this go about 3 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and throw this brisket on. And just for reference, we're about 1.5 inches above the coals on this. I do have my vent shut pretty low, and I don't have a visual of that right now, but I will have a visual of that when I open it up and start cranking this thing up. Anyway, I don't have a temperature probe in here yet. I will put a temperature probe in that brisket once we're in about 5 or 6 hours. So if you take a look at this bottom vent, I have that just barely cracked. What I'm going to do is open it up a little bit. I did just check the temperature on this, and we're running at about 265, 270, which is still pretty high, so I'm not going to open it up too much. But what I'm going to do first is every hour for the next few hours, I'm going to spritz it down with, this is some jalapeno pickle juice. So we're just going to spritz it down with that. So I'm going to come over here and pull it out and spritz it down. And like I said, we are going to open this up, and we're gonna open it up about half the way, and in a couple more hours I'm gonna go ahead and throw that temperature probe in here, but I think I'm good for now. 6 hours in on this cook, and the temperature on this brisket is about 165. I am gonna go ahead and pull it and wrap it right now. So I've been cooking probably at around 300 degrees or so. Let me pull this probe out. We'll get it back in later. So here's kind of what we're looking like right now. Let's go inside and wrap it up. Just got this off the smoker. It does kind of have a little bit of a bark on it. Not a lot yet. What we're going to do is we are going to, it does have nice, excellent color though. What we're going to do is just spray it down, and some of this foil with the same jalapeno pickle juice that we had earlier. I don't want to put a whole lot in there because I don't want it to be steaming in there. Now we're going to wrap it as tight as we can. And again, the tighter you wrap it, the less area there is, or the less open space there is inside this foil for the brisket to actually steam as opposed to cook. Okay, so we got this thing wrapped up. Let's just go ahead and throw this back on our smoker. I'm gonna go ahead and put my meat probe in. And what you want to do, a lot of times what I've made actually mistakes myself is poking it through and it's gone all the way through the meat. So I'd like to come in kind of from the side. This side's a little bit thicker, so we're just gonna come in from the side. And we're gonna take this to 200 degrees. So we are only 7.5 hours into this cook. I just reached 200 degrees. What I'm gonna do now is, there is a little seepage from where I had the temperature probe going in. So I'm gonna flip this over, just wrap it one more time in some foil. And the only reason I'm doing it is so I don't get this blanket messed up when I wrap it. So basically I'm just using a thermal blanket. I'm not going to throw it in a cooler. This should be fine the way it is. So, whew, that is hot. So I'm just going to wrap it in this blanket. I'm going to leave it right here. And I will get back to this in an hour. This brisket, I've already just cut it in half. I didn't remove the decal from the flat. I just cut it in half. Set some of it aside. Now we're going to go ahead and just cut a few slices of this and see what's up. I'm going to do about 4 slices and kind of bring you guys in. I'm going to do the taste test a little bit before well, I don't know when I'm going to do that. Anyway, this is enough slices right here. Let's go ahead and see what's up with this. So, it's a nice little bend to it. Let me just go ahead and do the taste test now. I'm not a huge fan of fat, so I pull that fat right on off, personally. But nice smoke ring, which you guys will see. I really like the way this tastes, especially for such a short cook. I think I'm going to stick with that short cook on it. No reason to go 14 hours. Anyway, I'm bringing camera in so you can take a look at this, and then I'm out. Here's what the brisket's looking like right here. I'm extremely happy with this. Actually, I was a little concerned about getting a smoke ring on that pit barrel cooker just because I was cooking it a little bit hotter and faster, and it probably got up to that 140, 150 really quick, but did put a good smoke ring on it. Like I said, I'll leave a link to the pit barrel cooker website in the description below. Run by there, check them out if you're in the market for a Weber Smoky Mountain. This is something that you can't really compare the two, but I think they complement each other, but if you're just looking for one, you might want to consider this. Anyway, thanks for stopping by No Hippie Barbecue. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.